Next up, here's part 2 of that conversation. You're going to love this. Thanks for joining us on The Rebuild. So let me ask you this. Before this, what ideas did you have around your own love attachment style?
Yeah. I had I wasn't really sure about my own attachment style. I have a lot of really securely attached friendships. With my ex-husband, I think we were together 17 years, and honestly, like the whole time I was struggling. I'm amazed that I stayed. I mean, it wasn't like toxic. He wasn't a bad person. There was no
Yeah.
like abuse or anything, but I just didn't feel yeah, I didn't feel really seen and attuned to. I didn't feel like satisfied with kind of what we were like our teamwork or what we were doing in the
Yeah.
world. So I wasn't really sure what that meant, but then I met somebody that I fell really hard for and ended up with a more insecure attachment style with that person. One thing that it's important to recognize is that you can have different attachment styles with different people and it brings out different things. And so I think feeling so deeply attached to him and then, he was pretty avoidant in our relationship, conflict avoidant and not always honest. So that was really hard. And so that
Yeah.
really drove me to, I'm like, I don't want to be this way in my relationships. Like this doesn't feel good. So that really drove me, the trains going by, to find out as much as I could, like really heal through that. Yeah.
Really like that idea that a person can have different attachment styles in different relationships. And because I'm sure that that can occur with food and with our relationship with food and even different parts of our relationship with food. So I love that we're talking about this. For me, I personally feel, I'll tell you this. I was married and my former husband could eat like baked chicken, rice, and vegetables every day. Every day. He could eat the same thing every day. And I started to play around with this idea that my own personal belief is that our food palette is directly related to how we experience the world. So someone who may be a little bit more adventurous with their eating is probably adventurous in life. And someone who is more limited in their eating is probably, kind of maybe conventional and a little bit less adventurous in life. And so I really love that you're talking about like these food attachment styles. I also find that it's tied to our sexuality. I think that people who are willing to try different things on their plate will try different things in
I
an
love it.
intimate space, to be honest. Yeah, so for a long time, I listed him as baked chicken in my phone because that is how he occurred
Yeah, totally.
to me.
Okay, but how is it seasoned? That's what I'm like, I gotta know how the chicken was seasoned.
Yeah, minimal seasoning, maybe some salt and pepper. I don't know, maybe he got crazy and threw in a little garlic powder. But other than that, there wasn't much happening. But I mean, it was good to it was something that I didn't realize until we were deep into relationship. And much like you, I have very secure uh relationships, specifically my friendships, but they're textured and they're multi-layered and they're different and they're complex. And my relationship with him was not any of those things. It was pretty simple and not very interesting.
I recently saw a post that was really trying to like stop demonizing people for being anxious or being,
Mhm.
dismissive or any of those things. And it was like, these are two people who have two different goals. So one person is trying to keep equilibrium in status quo, and they just want things to be, smooth sailing,
Mhm.
simple sailing. And the other person is trying to achieve like closeness and trying to resolve or repair anything that might get in the way of closeness. And I really liked that framing of it because I was like, when I framed it like that with my ex partner that I was describing, yeah, he really just wanted things to go smoothly. He wanted things to go well and just kind of coast.
Yeah.
And I like the person who's like, we gotta go check this thing out. We gotta do it. He actually was food adventurous though. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. I think there have been times that I've played both parts. There have been times that I'll go along to get along. Like, is this really my fight? I don't know that I want to fight about this. I don't know that I want this to be my fight. But I'm definitely, to an extent, I am food adventurous and willing to try, new and different things. Also, what it makes me think about it, which I know is something that you talk about, is cultivating joy. And food and the experiences around food bring me a lot of joy. I think about, for me as a little kid, I have a sister. My sister's 10 years older than me. And one of my favorite memories is the best tasting bubble gum that I ever had. And it was when I was younger, they sold a brand called Bubblicious. And Bubblicious they came in little squares. And I remember, similarly to my parents I didn't grow up with tons of money. So it wasn't my parents bought me a pack and they bought my sister a pack. It was one pack of gum. And my
The
mother
precious
held on
gums,
to
yeah,
the
yeah.
pack. Yeah, my mother held on to the pack and I got one piece and my sister got one piece. And my sister would say, okay, first we're going to take my piece and we're going to break it in half, and you eat half and I eat half. And until this day, North, it was the best gum I ever had because the joy that came from sharing something that simple, not even a whole piece of gum, but a half.
Mhm.
Like the joy that came from that was just, I don't know if there's anything that can compare to that today. So tell me a little bit about cultivating joy with food and how does that tie into enough?
Yeah. So when we listen to what our body craves or desires, what our body wants, and that includes, our taste buds and our mouth,
Yeah. Yeah.
when we feel more satisfied with food, it creates this sort of like trust between our body and
Mm.
ourselves. Like I'm going to give myself what I desire. And it really you know, physiologically, it's like good for us. If you think about like a baby laughing or, you think about even just like laughing with your friends or some good sex or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
all of those types of things, people say like, oh, it lights up the pleasure centers and like that's like cocaine. And that's not accurate, right? We want to light up the pleasure centers and we need to have pleasure and we need novelty
Yes.
and so when we can treat ourselves with this sense of like, I deserve that joy, I deserve to like have the gum that I want to have or have today. I had I went to Iceland one time and there's this candy that is like my favorite candy in the world that's from Iceland. And so somebody I know went there and brought me back some.
So
I was
good.
Yeah, I was cleaning something out and I was like, "Oh, I still have some," like, I'm treating them kind of like that gum, like, so precious
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to just get it easily. But yeah, I had a piece and then savored it, and it was just like, ugh, it just really brought back, like, all the sensations and all the, like, that just like, "Yes, this is perfectly satisfying." So yeah, it's really good for us physiologically, but it's even better for that secure, built trusting relationship with yourself.
Yes. I love that. Yeah, yeah. I think that I agree, and in many areas, it's good to cultivate joy in that way. First of all, everyone, if you are not already, start following Tiffany North, our coach Tiffany RN on Instagram, so that you can keep up with everything that's going on. But I saw a beautiful post that you had about visiting your grandparents in Wisconsin and the cookie jar. And then what happens when you get back home, you know? Tell us a little bit about, really, I wanna know firstly about the experience of being with your grandparents in Wisconsin.
Yeah, so my grandparents were, they were pretty hands off. Like they went golfing every morning, and that kind of stuff. But my grandma always wanted to have. She'd always ask, like, "What's your favorite cereals? What kind of cookies do you like?" And when I got there, there would be, the cookie jars would be full of like all kinds of different things. So that was, especially coming from, you know, my household where we would bake at Christmas time some, but we didn't really bake, much throughout the year, and we didn't get, like, some of the funner, definitely to never get like Lucky Charms or
Yeah, yeah,
anything like
yeah.
that. So it was kind of a feast, it'd be like, "Oh my gosh, all
Mhm.
these things," and it was really common to have, like, an ice cream cone on the porch at night because it would be hot out. Yeah, and they had, there were lightning bugs there,
Love that.
yeah, you could catch a jar. We don't have them in the Northwest, and, like, I'd be running and playing with my cousins a lot, foosball table, so it was just, like, very yeah, a lot of joy and a lot of, playing and eating foods that were yummy. There was some negative to the food situation, though. My grandma and grandpa were, I think they were born in, like, the 1930s, and so Depression era babies, and so my grandma would make dinner, and she would, like, make a roast all day long, that kind of a thing, but if we didn't eat it, it would go out for leftovers the next day at lunch, and then the next day, and the next day, so it's like,
Right.
you might as well eat it because it's just
Yeah,
gonna get
yeah, because
worse.
it's gonna appear in a different form. So just go ahead and eat this and enjoy it before it appears in a different way. I totally understand that. Yeah. And I've been there and I'm not I'll say very honestly and without any shame, the things that I can do with a rotisserie chicken is I can just do amazing things. So I totally understand that. Well, the last thing that I really wanted to touch on a little bit was I love that you are rejecting diet culture. And I think that that is something that we should all be doing. How did you get there? And what does that look like for you?
Yeah, for me personally, it took really coming to a place of just recognizing how my relationship with food had just gotten so big in my head. I was thinking about food all the time, and I was dieting, off and on pretty constantly, and it was stealing my joy, and it was
Mhm.
also causing problems in my relationships, and it was making life kind of empty. Like I actually recently just did a diet, which I haven't posted the video about that yet, but I had to just really short term for a lab draw that I or like a lab that I was taking, and my doctor was like, "Avoid all these things for, like,
Yeah, yeah.
several days beforehand," and it was like, I was so sad when I would go out to restaurants. I'm like, "Oh, I can't have any of this," like, "Can you just make this plain for me?" or whatever, and so, yeah, it was stealing a lot of my joy, and there was sort of this moment of, like, I think I was, like, measuring some broccoli or something, and I was like, "Oh, this is ridiculous. Like, you should never have to measure how much broccoli you're eating."
Right,
It
right.
was terrible. So, yeah, that part was just awful. And so I got really lucky. I went on, Brene Brown had leadership training at the time, and I went on her website and found a therapist who happened to be in Portland that just happened to be focused on food and body relationships, and I had no idea that, she was anti-diet and intuitive eating and all these things. So I just happened to see her, and that is Hillary of the Center for Body Trust, and they do, like, all kinds of trainings, and they've written a book, and, it just was pure luck that I saw her, and she actually asked me the first thing that she asked that really got me intrigued about intuitive eating was like, when's the last time you had a meal that was just because it was satisfying, purely based on satisfaction? I was like, no one has ever asked me about like a food or a meal being satisfying in my life. And it was like, wow, that could be a priority, or like that's something that I could like base my decisions on. Yeah. So I was sold.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it took some time, I still played around, like, I think after that, I still tried, like, intermittent fasting, and not for long because it brought back that preoccupation and that anxiety so quickly that I knew, that it wasn't right for me, and it just didn't make sense to me to be walking around hungry all the time, and there's that pendulum swing then when you've restricted and then you eat all the things because you've been restricting.
Mhm.
So, yeah. The other thing that really sold me on it was just being able to, like, have chocolate in my house without it, like, consuming my thoughts. Like, I could just
Yes.
have the amount I
Yeah.
wanted and then walk away, and then it was, like, no big deal anymore.
Yeah.
So once I started practicing intuitive eating, it really made me realize that life could be, you know, so much there could be so much more peace in my life
Yeah.
and so much more joy. And then the thing that's really sold me is it kind of radicalized me, honestly. Like I started realizing like, oh, this is, a way that we're controlled and this is a way that we are kept distracted from the things that really matter. And
That part. Yeah, I think that part is so critical. And, it makes me think, especially about the audience here at the Rebuild. We are focused on, like the what's next, rebuilding our life after major change, major disruption, major life transition. And I wonder, what is it that you would want your patients to know, you would want your clients to know? People who've gone through maybe whether it's food addiction, trauma around food, any type of eating disorder, like what is the thing that you really want people to know if they're going to rebuild their relationship with food in a healthy way?
yeah, I mean, what I want them to know is it's really about their relationship with themselves and that by doing this work, it opens up so much possibility. You can go anywhere. Don't have to figure out like what, I mean, maybe you want to bring a snack with you in case you get hungry and there's no restaurant or something, but like, you don't have to like be like, oh, what am I going to eat? How am I going to manage that? I should bring all my own food with me. You no longer have to do those kinds of things, but also like things that I never knew um would be important to me have opened up. Like even like now I make playlists. Like, like it seems silly, but like right before this, I was listening to every year I make a playlist that correlates for the year, like sort of how do I want to feel this year? What's really like important to me? And so I was just listening to my 2026 playlist and sort of, dancing around my house. And that feels really amazing. And now, I can show up for my family and my friends in a way that's a lot more grounded. And I have so much more compassion for myself and for them. And I can go have, travel adventures. Like it's just opened up so much for me. And I want them to know that like it's not their fault. This messaging, again, this attachment wounding that goes back to childhood and it's like echoed throughout as we grow up in our communities and schools and churches and, all these places that we go. So like, when you fight to reclaim your value and worth, it's like this total ripple effect that happens in your
Mm,
own life and in other people's lives.
yeah, it almost makes me feel like when you claim or reclaim this freedom, that it also allows other people to be free. That's
Yes,
what it means. That's
absolutely.
that's how I feel with that, like, with what you just said. Like, the moment that we decide that, I'm not gonna be bound by the calories on the side of the box, and I'm talking about, like, major health factors withstanding, right? Obviously, there's certain things that we know we just shouldn't do, like, obvious or we know the effects of having too much sodium, too many salted items or but outside of, like, those major things, I think that, the more that we get free, the more we can help others be free and the more we quiet food noise. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People often don't believe me when they first come to start working with me that like it's possible to have I was cleaning that pantry out today and I found that candy and there were like multiple things that I just forgot about and like they went stale. like like so many snacks and things that I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess."
Mhm.
And that would have been something like I would have like when I was in my full blown like dieting, if I'd go off a diet and there was like food on the counter, like a cake on the counter or something, I couldn't walk past the kitchen without like thinking about it. And now sometimes
Yeah.
I eat, the whole piece or I eat, whatever amount of the cake,
Mhm.
but often a lot of it goes bad. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like amazing how it doesn't the noise is so much from restriction and so much from this good bad thinking and this like I can't have it, the forbidden fruit.
Right.
And really, it's like arbitrary. Those rules are
Yeah.
totally arbitrary and not tuned into your body at all. So, yeah, and that's kind of where it gets back into the relationship. Like, I'm tuning into my body, I'm listening to my body, I'm building that care and tending of my body and respect of my body too. So part of it is, like I don't worry about sodium, but I definitely notice, like, if I, were to go out on Friday night, I don't know, eat a bunch of salty things, I'm like, "Oh, I'm a little puffy the next day." Like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, my body is, like, telling me something. So, it's not that we completely, like, let go of any health focus, although it's fine if people do wanna just not worry about that, that doesn't mean you're a bad person or anything. But it's more of like I trust my body to let me know, what it needs and what will bring its joy and satisfaction. And then from there, that trust blossoms into so much more.
Yeah. I love that. With food and with people. With
Mhm.
food and with people, I think.
100% because boundaries, so in my book, there's an entire chapter about like learning how to honor your needs and how boundaries is often a huge part of it. Boundaries Not having the boundaries that you need or someone continually crossing your boundaries in your life, that can absolutely lead to, emotional eating. It can lead to, although I don't call it emotional eating, I call it soothing using food or even restriction. So the relationship piece is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I love that that has to do that can be with romantic relationships, with friend relationships, with parent relationships. How many times do our needs or our desires ignored by people, by family members? And so I love that that model and that can be applied to multiple areas of our life.
Yeah, it's like the food piece is only just the tip of the iceberg. It's really
Yeah.
like all of that under the water that we got to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So tell us, where can we find your book? I love that it's called I love the enough and the cherry right in the middle of the O. It's just clutch for me because I think that people will experience this book as this being like kind of the cherry on top of them understanding their relationship with dieting and with food and how to cultivate a healthy relationship. Where can we find your book? Tell us all the things.
Yeah, yeah. So my website is coachtiffanyrn.com/book. And you can order it direct from me and then you get like a signed copy. Or if you want like a bundle of the audiobook, the paperback, there's a discount on there. But there's also like links to all the different booksellers. So if you want to, get it from Bookshop or Barnes and Noble or Powell's or Amazon, wherever you want to get it,
Mhm.
there's links to all of those places there. And, I love feedback about the book too. So I'm always open to hearing from people. And as you stated, yeah, I have Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, but who knows what's going to happen with that now.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
and I am starting trying to get my YouTube channel going. So that's all
Nice.
Coach Tiffany RN. Yeah.
Very nice. Tiffany, I can't thank you enough for joining me. This has been so informative. I think people are really, really gonna enjoy this episode. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Rebuild family, that is another episode. Thank you for joining us. Please be sure to like and comment and subscribe. And then definitely share this episode with someone you love, someone you care about, someone you know. They really want to know and learn more about Coach Tiffany RN. I'm so glad that you could be here with us. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.